The Heresy Accountabilibuddies Podcast is dedicated to all things Horus Heresy. This podcast delves into the grimdark universe where Primarchs clash, legions rise, and loyalties fracture faster than a Land Raider's track. But it's not just about the lore of the Horus Heresy. The Accountabilibuddies also explore the gaming side of things, from painting and modeling tips to product reviews and ideas to help you in your hobby. So, whether you're a seasoned Forge World veteran or a fresh-faced scout, this podcast is your Vox channel to the galaxy. Expect discussions on lore, modeling, gaming, and maybe even the shenanigans that your hosts somehow seem to find their way into. Remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there are only two things you can count on: heresy and your trusty Accountabilibuddies.
And welcome to episode 131 of the Heresy Accountabilibuddies Podcast. Tonight we have a Duncan, a Jamie, and a John, but I'll let them introduce themselves because I didn't know what else to say. So I'm Jack, followed by
Duncan,
Jamie, and John.
and Jack. It's like I said they were here already without letting them talk. That's for the better sometime. Trust me. But before we go any further, we're going to kick it over to a quick station identification. And thank you
Do
to our
you love
crazy...
resin bases? Then go to our sponsor, Elric Hobbies, for all of your basing and basing accessory needs. Use code HERESYABB at checkout for a discount. Legendary Monument Hobbies. Monument Hobbies is a one-stop shop for all of your painting needs. Use code HERESYABB at checkout for a 5% discount on your purchase. Pop Goes the Monkey. Find maker of third-party accessory bits of arms, legs, backpacks, and more, where you can get 10% off your first order over $125 with code HERESYABB at checkout.
Identification. And thank you to our patrons. Without you, none of this would be possible. Also, without you, Duncan would not be doing Ultramarines Army. I forgot to mention it last week. That is my bad. Or,
Always remember to like and subscribe, and our patrons are the cream in my mango puff.
Oh, my...
Road to 100. For those not watching the video, I was enjoying a little snack before the show started, so I always got to make a joke. So yeah, this week I worked a lot on the Porphyrin. I got all the metals down. I got my 2 layers of inks down for grime as well as shadows, and then I started putting down the spot metals down on all the different colors that I need to apply on there. After all that, I went through and applied the 2 different highlights on the blacks that I like to use on all of the armor plates for the Porphyrin, as well as all of the other knights that I've slowly been working on. So the 4 or the 5 different Cerastus chassis that I've also got kicking around in my work progress bin are all ready to start getting masked off, and for me to start planning how I'm going to lay out decals and things like that, so I can figure out which panels need to be black and which panels need to be red. And that was all I got done for hobby-wise this week. And then yesterday I ran our monthly third Saturday Heresy event at Dallas Games Marathon in Plano, Texas. I decided to go ahead and use the leaked 3.0 missions and let people kind of figure out what they thought about those. There was definitely some questions on how things worked and how interactions worked. Which was kind of funny because there was really no changes on the basic objectives for capturing objectives or secondary objectives, other than a rewording of price of failure is now giant killer and things like that. So it was fairly straightforward. I had 2 great games, one against Andrew, who shows up a lot in our Wednesday night hangouts, and I appreciate playing him. And then my second game, we had somebody drop, so I went ahead and just kind of hung out and with everybody. Oh no, that's right. I didn't play a second game. Crap. I forget who I played against. My brain done farted. Oh, it was Avash. God, I can't believe I forgot that. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm tired. So yeah, that was a fun game. He brought his Solar Ox and many Melta guns. And I made the joke because it was pretty obvious. I was setting up my 5 armor 14 tanks. So the list was a Praetor in Terminator in Cataphracti armor, a Primus Medicae in Cataphracti armor, a 5-man command squad in Cataphracti armor inside of a Proteus Land Raider with 3 last cannons, 2 10-man Cataphracti Terminator squads with 4 Thunderhammers. Everybody but the sergeant had Volkites, and then the rest of the weapons were kind of a mix of the other power weapons. So 2 Mauls and 2 lances, and then 2 guys with 2 lightning claws. And then to fill up the rest of the points, it was 2 all Volkite Kratoses. It was definitely an interesting list. The first game went down to just the banner bearer and the 2 Kratoses being alive, and the banner bearer held the last objective that got me a tie. And then the second game, I nearly got tabled because no matter how much stuff you can shoot, if your enemy brings more line units than you have units in your army, you can't kill them all. So he had 11 line units as well as a crap ton of everything. So his entire deployment zone was full of models, and mine was just 5 tanks. So that was a fun blast. It was 2 great games. Somebody saying something there?
More templates.
Yeah, I need to. If I'm going to keep, if Pride of War stays or Pride of the Legion stays, I'm probably going to have to rework the entire list and try to figure out something that takes out large mobs a little better than that.
Well, you had what, 2 Kratos? Did I see correctly?
Yeah.
Well, just change out. Can't you just change out the main gun on them?
Yeah, I don't know necessarily that would kill enough. Still, I think I still need something else.
True. Well, I mean, it would start working them down at least. So
yeah. It would be a little better, but those Kratos basically just looked at a 10-man squad and just deleted it off the board by shooting the main gun, and then the sponsons didn't really do anything, so it was kind of useless.
Are you running the Melta, or are you running which gun were you running on them?
Volkite main gun, and then Volkite sub-sponsons, and Volkite real sponsons.
So Chumwagon. Okay. Yep. Well, I mean, that should erase a lot, but
yeah, you're not able to split fire, really.
Right.
So we'll see what 3.0 brings to the table. That was really everything for me. What about you, Jamie?
So just been working on the Titan mainly. Any free time I've got, that's where it's going to. I've been working mainly on the waist down. I have 4 subsections: waist down, upper torso, armor, and then weapons. And I've been putting layers down on the waist down. I'm not trying to go super detailed on the under, like the legs and everything. Mainly like all the different pistons and kind of greasing stuff up, like a little pre-weathering, let's call it that, because the armor's going to cover up most of the legs anyways, and then I'm going to weather weather the whole model when everything's together. So I'm kind of like doing the stuff that you can see when the armor's not there, like the pistons, joints, cabling, that kind of stuff. And it's going pretty well. There was a color I couldn't find anybody really made, and had to get some suggestions from all of the paint people. And I ended up going with Monument Coal Black mixed with the Monument Proacryl Metallic Medium to kind of get a metallic black color or metallic dark gray color. So that's pretty much what I've been working on. Dropped the son off at Space Camp today, so I should have some free time this week. A lot more free time because of that. But anyways, Duncan, how about you?
Well, this week's actually been somewhat productive for me. I got most everything done for the Contemptor for the Night Lords. I've got the Praetor mostly done for the Night Lords. Both of them are on the next final seal. My decals from GW finally showed up. I'm not sure if this is the first batch that I ordered or the one where they reordered it for me, but I do have decals. Yay, Night Lords decals that are getting washed out. So they've shown up, so I'll be doing decal work and everything for this guy and the Dread this week. I was going to do some today, but did a whole bunch of stuff working around the house instead, so I didn't really get a chance to do that. Then I spent time scouring through the yesterday and last night and some of today, reading the new Era of Ruin novel from GW for the Siege of Terra final book. I'm about 3/4 of the way done, which is about right for me. I'm looking forward to seeing where the end of this finally goes and what comes next from the book series. I'm really hoping for more books, and I'm really hoping for a scouring series. Really, really hoping for that. No spoilers, so I don't think anyone's going to be really upset with how the book's going. It's good. It ties up a lot of loose ends so far. Most of it's in short stories.
Anything like nothing truly shocking, though.
No. In fact, like it's not included a single quote unquote main character.
Okay.
It's all literally like little people's stories that are getting tied up at this point. So these are all the threads that never got finished in the series, and they're tying some up. And some of them have been pretty satisfactory in the way they've been tied up, honestly. So cool. I'm cool with that. But other than that, just working on Night Lords. So didn't get any games played.
So can I ask you a question about your Night Lords?
Yeah, shoot. Okay.
So I've done a Night Lords army. I've done one for myself, and I've done one for Tots. And how are you doing lightning on everything, or are you just selectively doing it? How are you? So what's going on with that decals?
So the decal sheet has, and I'm not going to count them all, but the entire upper right corner of it is lightning bolts. Right. And I'm going to use the shit out of those. Okay. And then I'm gonna use those primarily on like the vehicles and main character or characters models. I'm not planning to use them on the regular guys. For the regular rank and file, I will likely be doing some freehand on the lightning bolts, or see if I can find any lightning bolt decals that are not GW elsewhere for them, because my freehand ability sucks, to be honest.
Well, that's the cool thing about lightning. You don't have to be super.
Yeah, you're right.
If you remember, I found those lightning decals that were UV reactive too a long time ago. So other companies make lightning decals.
Yeah. I mean, I'll probably end up getting other companies' lightning decals for it because, like I said, my freehanding sucks, and I just want them all to look uniformly decent.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's something that, like, a lot of people don't think about. That army has like that's something that's very iconic about the army that like a lot of people don't really hash out, and don't think about it. Like, oh shit, they're just navy blue ultramarines,
Yeah. You shut your whore mouth.
They're angry navy blue ultramarines. No, but and everybody has their own spin on it too. Is another way of doing it. So
and I'm actually liking, and I actually may end up breaking my normal rule. My normal rule is I do everything final seal and satin, not in gloss. But the seal I've laid down most recently is a gloss seal, and I am really liking the shine and added depth that's giving for reflective from the light. So I may end up doing a gloss on all of these instead of a final satin. I don't know yet. I'm very confused on that one. We'll just leave it there. I'm not certain which direction I want to go for the final seal, but we're still working on them.
Cool.
It's like a lot of people out there, I'm sure I've had a little bit of hobby ADD, especially right now since we have whatever edition 3.0 coming out and what changes we don't know we're going to be. So I've had a little bit of, do I put this on the Praetor? Do I put that on the Praetor?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of holding off on finishing the Praetor's arms. But other than that, everything else is done. And I've got an arm that's ready for either a Paragon blade or a Thunderhammer or a pistol, depending on what I'm going to end up putting on him. So we're going to see.
That's why I left all the shoulder pads off the Terminators that I built for the event this week, is because I just don't know what weapons are going to be good. And then today,
Shield the pads.
Facebook brought me back the memory of working on all the speeders when we were in this position right before 2.0 dropped. So
Yep. So I'm probably gonna pause on him. I'm not gonna pause on the Dread because I've got the Dread built the way I want the Dread built. But I'll probably start doing work on a batch of tactical guys to get them ready, because you're gonna need tactical Marines no matter what you do. So that's my plan. Is my next step is tactical guys. So from there, hey Jack, did you do any hobby this week, or was your hobby just road tripping and work?
Just kicking it over to John for the news.
news.
That's what we like to call in industry a segue.
That is a
Yes.
segue.
So this week we saw the actual pre-orders come up for Cathay. And as you notice on the GW US web store, they all sold out.
What a shock.
The dice, the book, and the battalion that was originally marked as limited edition, which is not limited edition anymore. They upped the article and said that it'd be a normal release.
Cool.
All sold out. So I definitely think that that's going to be in a popular army. The characters,
The
Shine,
Southeast Asian
Yep.
Old World Army.
the cards are still in stock because it's an online only thing, I guess.
How much was the how much was the blimp? You're scrolling past it. I didn't see it.
160.
Woo!
Yeah. Hope you don't need a lot of those. Next week is a drop of all of the Space Wolves. So we've got Logan Grimnar, Najal, Rockfist, Wolf Priest. He'd be a cool fodder for some Heresy conversions.
Yep.
Battle Leader, another cool fodder for conversions. Terminators are like this guy. Steal his axe bit for a Herald. Head Takers, Blood Claws, Grey Hunters. I like that these guys are armed with the old bolters, so you could definitely steal them and some parts to make some good Space Wolves for Heresy stuff. Also, a beautiful set of pearlescent dice that you could steal.
For probably like $50 for a set. So
Oh yeah, at least for 25 dice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's the cards. You're not going to get 25 dice. 16 dice is going to be $50. And then we also see a release of the new design drop pods. And I noticed this when Jamie posted the picture to our chat. They redesigned the way the door works. So now the top of the door stays on top of the pod. The permanently open door is now cut in half, and the symbol is now on top. So you still get to glue on chapter symbols or an Aquila on all the different facings.
and it sounded like there's different like everybody freaked out when they first previewed them that with the base. Like, how are you going to transport those pods with that huge amount of terrain underneath it? And it sounds like, and it looks like that they have like that full base, and then they have ones without, though it's just little bits of dirt around the actual doors being down.
Yeah, and you can also just not glue that on, or glue it to the doors and then don't glue the doors on. There's a couple different ways we could do this. I'm kind of tempted to buy a couple sets of these and then do those with all the other pods I've got in my backlog and do everything together at once. Just call it finished drop pods.
We saw the price on them, and they're not, I'm not going to say they're horrendous. I mean, they're not cheap, but like, it's, I was dreading them being like $100 for a set,
Yeah. It's not that much more expensive than, so when the pods went out of production, they were $60 a piece.
Yeah.
Definitely a markup when they first came out at 40. But I mean, you're getting two for what the stock looks like it's going to be about 70, 75.
Yeah.
Oh, that comes out to about $35 to $40, depending if it's 75 to 80.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's, I mean, that's really not a bad price.
I mean, it's a decent
we're paying before.
I mean, like
GW,
yeah. I mean, think how much rhinos are going for now.
Yeah.
Like Mars pattern rhinos. I think they're like $62 or $65 a rhino. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's not that bad.
No, not bad at all.
They're bringing back the Celestine statue from Kill Team as a made-to-order item. I know this thing goes for crazy amounts on eBay because it's only ever been in two different sets of terrain. It's never been by itself. So definitely order that if you want one or find another way to get it. And then some limited edition books. We don't know when the limited edition Ruin book is coming back out, though. Still
Yep,
waiting
they
on
haven't said
information.
nothing about it. Thank you, bots.
Yeah.
Yeah, no joke. Thank you, bots and scalpers running bots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Merch.warhammer has dropped some new stuff. So we've got the ultra blinged out Ultramarine from Space Marine 2. It looks like he's got all of the, it looks like the highest level gear that you unlock by
It's like
completing
every
all the,
bit of the totally upgraded armor from the game.
yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of sworn off Joy Toy last episode, but this guy's really sexy and I'm it's pulling me. So maybe I'll wait till it drops and Amazon runs a sale on it and I'll have to get him. You can also see the new improved pricing. That's $63. That's what Terminators were costing a while ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like he comes with the lights that Titus, the new Titus and other models came with, though. There are companies that make light kits you can put in there, though. He's got the bolt pistol, chain sword, and bolter all blinged out. They also dropped the other knight, which is House Raven, which is my clan. I'm going to skip this thing, obviously. It's $700, which would get you a brand new Warbringer from Forge World, or nearly a box set and a half when that drops. So I think I'm going to be good skipping this guy. It is
Right
cool
before-
to see that. Go ahead.
Right before we started, I saw somebody posted a picture. They had the other one in their car with the seatbelt on it in the front seat, and it's it's easily as big as it's much bigger than a Reaver.
Yeah.
Like a 28 mil Reaver. It's probably the size of a Warbringer, to be honest with you. It was pretty hilarious though.
1/4 scale Warhammer is still a go.
They did a completely new pilot for this, so it's a completely different figure that comes inside. This one's a female pilot.
Neat.
The other things that Merch Warhammer dropped is a bunch of Heresy shirts. So we've got the Night Lords logo, the Iron Hands logo, the White Scars logo, and the Raven Guard logo. No Best Legion available.
You're right. Sons of Horus and the War Leaders aren't on there.
Looks like they're also doing
Hoodies.
Heresy hoodies as well. There's an Ultramarine shirt. Oh, that's the old Forge World artwork. Cool. That's nice. The Ultramarines. As well as all the other legions are there, and then they got a Solar Ox mug and a Baneblade poster. So there's some new stuff coming for Heresy from Warhammer merch if you need to get some things. Oh, they sold out the calendar again. Halfway
What a
through.
shock. What a shock. Hey, look, there's an Iron Hands Ferris Manus t-shirt with only the head. Just like Ferris Manus, except, the head's not attached to a body. Makes perfect sense to me.
And then Merchoid dropped so they've been doing sets of ties. I hadn't seen this one before. This is a Chaos symbol tie. So you can see it comes with Chaos symbols interwoven in kind of a usual tie design. So it kind of blends in. And then you get a Chaos tie pin.
I don't think I could get away with wearing that to court for work.
I wore the Ultramarine or the Aquila one to a work function.
I think if you took off the pin, I think you could.
Yeah. If you look at just the images of the tie by itself, there's skulls and
don't get close.
Chaos logos interspaced. There's one zoomed out. It doesn't look GW from a distance.
Okay, so maybe, but I still don't think I'll chance it. I'll just stick with my regular shirt and tie.
Yep.
I know.
From other companies that are making GW related things, this is a new Kickstarter by Rogue Sculpts. They're coming out with a FDM supported Capital Imperialis knockoff. They're calling it the Mammoth. I guess it doesn't look like it almost looks more like a mastodon kind of.
I was gonna say it looks more like a mastodon.
Yeah, and then we've got a transport that fits inside the transport called an Oxen that looks really close to that Krieg transport that we had for a while.
Yeah, it does.
But it's more like a cargo truck, and then they threw in some things.
I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's a 3D file for FDM printers, and then they've got some tanks as well. And then they also in the past had a land train, some rogue silos, a not warlord, and then some other tanks and terrain and stuff. What's interesting about this company is you pay what you want, so you don't necessarily have to So for $5, you get the transport. For 25, you get the mammoth and the transport. So that's pretty cheap considering how much a lot of the other companies are charging for a lot of their print jobs.
Kind of neat.
I don't understand what it has prices, but it says you pay what you want. I don't understand that.
Yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah.
Or what
Yeah.
you feel this project is worth. I guess that means if you want to tip them more money, let's see if I can.
Tip them less. See if you can tip them less.
If you can tip them
$1.
less.
Nope, it doesn't load.
Oh, well.
This is a really cool one, I thought. The Emperor's Crown 3D printed LED and servo-enabled orbital cannon. So this is designed after the big cannon in Space Marine 1. And it has a or a button-activated plasma cannon in it. You push the button 5 times and it shoots and then lowers itself back into the standby position.
Oh, that's neat.
You get the files for the cannon as well as the Arduino programming stuff. So all you gotta do is buy the supplies to make it work.
Did you already support this?
I have not yet.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to force Jamie to print this giant cannon. He's still doing other stuff.
So what you're saying is you're going to get it and Jamie's going to print it for you?
The other kind of cool Kickstarter is this it's called Scrap Hunting, and this is for a bunch of crashed spaceship and scrap yard parts. This is just some interesting terrain out there. A little pricey at 33 pounds or 39 US for all the files. But you get a whole bunch of cool vertical walls and a bunch of city designs, as well as the crashed giant spaceship pieces. I've always liked giant crash spaceships. The How to Make War Games terrain book had this giant crash spaceship on the cover, and I bought the book thinking you'd make this spaceship, and turns out it was just a giant Star Wars Rebel transport. They'd sawed in half and never told you how to make it.
So that engine is huge. Like there's a picture of a guy standing behind it.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's like the size of like a medium pizza in diameter or something like that.
It's obviously styled off of Star Wars because there's a bunch of the add-on pieces or like a gutted out AT-ATs all, but there's definitely some cool stuff in here. I think varying up your terrain styles and things like that would be kind of neat. I like that they're using that giant crash spaceship piece as the centerpiece, and then you can hang banners and things like that off of that to shade your workspaces and things. Definitely a cool design idea. Mad Robot is coming out with the Durham Rebels. I can't possibly see what these are styled off of. Some possibly
interesting name.
Yeah.
I don't see beards long enough for those guys.
Right?
No Ken there, huh?
Yep, nope, I'm good on those.
No.
And then Army Painter announced they're finally starting to sell all the John Blanche paints separately.
Nice. Oh, finally.
So if you didn't do the special order, you can get those. RTLW has come out with this new set of Chaos Cultists called Servants of the Flame. This is the main setup. I thought the add-on was kind of funny, though. Cultist Chan is finally getting a model.
Oh, God. No, and no again. If you don't know what Cultist Chan or who Cultist Chan is out there, you are doing yourself a service. Do not go searching for that. Jesus Christ. It's
an old heresy or 40K meme from Dawn of War, because the Chaos Cultists would always scream, "Yes, Lord!" And so they said that kind of sounded like an overbearing weeb girlfriend, and so they made it into a comic.
Yeah, don't look this up. It's a bad choice. It gets bad and just goes worse from there.
That is sadly everything we've gotten now. There's been a bunch of new rules articles, but we're going to kind of discuss those as our main topic tonight.
Can you close her off the screen, please? I don't want to stare at that. Oh, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot better. I feel so much better.
Terminator. Yeah, we had the drop of the Saturnine rules. So since we know we're definitely getting these in the box, we thought we'd talk a little bit about the Saturnine Terminator Squad. We got a scan of the entire rules page for them. So you get 3 basic Terminators with the option to add in more Terminators.
Yep.
Squads are 3 to 6
Up to
units.
6, yeah.
They come in with movement 5, weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength 4, toughness 6, 3 wounds, initiative 3, and 2 attack.
Yep, I like that initiative is lower than regular Marines because they're slower and everything else, and yada yada.
Yep. And the movements kind of slow down as well.
Yep.
The T6 is also nice. They're that much bulkier.
Well, you gotta poke a lot more holes in that armor to try to find the meat inside.
Yeah, they come default with the fist and a single plasma bombard, which they can swap the fist for another plasma bombard for free, or they can swap either one of those weapons for the twin heavy disintegrator for 10 points apiece.
No.
I personally like
is
the twin heavy disintegrators, but we'll get into the goofiness of that in a second.
Yeah.
The other war gear they have is an Oculix targeting aspects. If they decide not to move all their weapons, they get firing protocols too, which means they can shoot 2 weapons a turn instead of just the normal 1. They also have explodes on a 6+ when they die.
Yeah, so not going too deep into their shooting, but assuming you have given them the disruptor or disintegrator cannons, or whatever they're called, the disintegrator, twin heavy disintegrators, and they're overload 2 each of them. So you're basically firing 4 shots at overload 2.
Yeah, so you're gonna, based on the other article we got before, which was the weapon article, that said that their the disintegrator rifle only has overload 1. Overload 1 means that any rolls of 1 to hit target your own squad.
Yeah.
So if you're overload 2, we would assume then that you're going to target your own squad on rolls of 2 and 1.
Yeah. And you have a firepower of 2 on it. So you're getting 2 shots per gun. And you overload on a 1 or a 2 on
So
all 4 of those shots.
Yeah, so you got 12 shots per unit.
Yep. And you're going to get an average of 4 1s and 2s. Let's be honest here and pretend that we're rolling as Jack. So you're going to get 6 1s and 2s.
Yep, or like I did last game, and 7 or 8 of them.
Okay, so you're getting 6 to 8 1s and 2s.
Yep.
AP
and then 2, so it's ignoring your armor.
Yep, and it's strength 7 versus toughness 6. So you're wounding yourself on a 3. According to the stat line here, you've got a 4-up invulnerable save.
Yep.
And you've got 3 wounds. So you get all those shots off. You're going to kill an average of 1 of your own Terminators a turn.
On average rolls, on
pure average.
On human rolls, like Jack and myself, you're going to kill probably 2 Terminators at least.
So normal people roll, you're going to kill 1 of your guys. Jack, John, and other people's rolls, you're killing 2 of them, who then, in the middle of your squad, blow up. Somehow, and I could be wrong, but somehow this sounds like a bad idea to me.
Yeah, the other odd thing that I kind of saw was even the plasma bombard. So if you fire it on sustained fire, it's 3-inch blast, barrage 1, so you don't need line of sight, which is kind of nice. Breaching 6 up, 3-inch blast, 24-inch range, so not terrible. AP 4 kind of sucks. 6 strength was kind of nice. If you do maximal fire, you still get the 3-inch blast and barrage 1. You go breaching 5 up, but you get that overload 2 back.
Yep.
But again, you're not killing yourself as much, but I don't know if you're gonna place the template over yourself, or what's going to go on there. We don't know what happens with overload and barrage and things
Well,
like that.
if you go back to the overload rule, it specifically says you target your own unit.
Right. So then we don't know if that scatters. There's a bunch of interactions that we don't know quite how they work yet.
Yes. All I can tell you is these guys look cool. I'll be honest, the twin heavy disintegrator looks cool as hell.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to use them, but by God, they look neat. So
Yep.
And there's only 2 gun options for these guys.
So far, yeah.
Okay.
And well, there's also the fist with an attached
Okay.
particle shredder.
So it's either plasma and or
Yep.
double plasma or double disintegrator. Any one of those weapons in a fist.
Yeah. And then the fist, you can add a new weapon to it.
Now, the fun part is that particle shredder on the fist also has overload 1, but it's got overload 1 on a template. So, all I'm going to say is these guys seemed like they have nothing but bad choices at this point.
Well, Vulcan did make them, so.
I mean, yeah, I just don't think I'm going to.
He made them, so he's just expecting them. Here's a spoiler: reincarnate themselves after they died, like he does.
Look, I'm going to buy them when they're available because they're cool looking models at this point to me, and I want to chaosify them up for the various legions. But I just don't see myself using them.
I bet you there's got to be another weapon option that will come out for them, like they did with. They're going to do.
God, I hope so.
The big boy.
I don't know, because if this is the sheet, there may be other. This may be a test sheet or just for this article. But what's really odd is we see him in the movie teleporting, and they don't by default have deep.
It's explained. By default they don't, but it's explained that if you take the HQ, he gives
right there. That boy.
Yeah, it's called a
Chungus. Okay, sorry.
So if you add the Saturnine Terminator Praetor, he alone is 200 points, which is the cost of 3 of the previous guys. He has an axe or a fist. He comes with the axe and a fist. He can change either of those for the hammer. And then he can also add a plasma blaster to his anything, apparently, just to bolt it on for free. And then for 60 points, he can add the Saturnine teleportation transponder, which allows him and a unit of Saturnine Terminators that's held in reserve to deep strike.
Yep.
Now, it doesn't say that he can deep strike himself. It specifically mentions that if he joins a unit of Terminators, they get the deep strike.
Yep. And 3 things technically that we really haven't focused on here is these guys are bulky 4.
Yeah.
And they have implacable advance, and they have slow and purposeful. We don't know what those 2 rules mean in this edition, but if you're going with what they used to mean before, I don't know anything about implacable advance, but I know that slow and purposeful used to mean that they were they always counted as stationary for shooting purposes.
Yeah, and they also couldn't run.
Yep. So we'll have to see what goes on there.
They're not fast boys at movement 5.
No, they are not.
Deep strike, and with bulky 4, you're not putting them in much, if anything.
Yep.
I think another thing that's neat about this is we see here that whereas before the regular Saturnines, they're initiative 3, he's initiative 4, which leads to the belief that regular Praetors are initiative 5. Leads to the belief that if these are +1 wound versus other Terminators, that means that a regular Praetor is likely to have 5 wounds, and Praetors don't have 10s down the board on leadership. So they got leadership 10, a cool willpower, and intelligence of 9. So Praetors aren't your be-all, end-all that they used to be for everything leadership-wise. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, the axe is AP2 damage 2. The hammer is AP2 damage 3. And the hammer also doubles your strength, which on this Praetor is strength 4. So basically a thunder hammer. But critical hits on a 6, which is nice. Reaping blow of 2, which we don't know what that does on the axe. No attack modifiers, but the hammer makes you swing at I1 with this guy.
So the war actually, the reaping blow right above it, 2 extra
that's
attacks when outnumbered in combat, hitting an initiative 4, strength 5, AP 2, and damage 2. So
it's just 2 extra attacks.
Well, he may count as 4 because he's bulky.
yeah, he may count as 4.
Night Lord might, if they keep the Night Lord rules the same, that would be nice.
Yeah, that so the Saturnines could be very useful for ones who get bonuses like that. It's interesting.
Yeah.
And the plasma blaster. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you also get the option that you do not have to put him on the tactical rock, which is incredible.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, for
because the article states
a lot of options.
Yeah, he's definitely interesting.
So the critical hit goes up to damage 4 for this Saturnine concussion hammer if he rolls his critical 6+. And then you could just bolt this plasma blaster onto either arm. Doesn't take up a weapon slot, which is nice. So you can shoot it sustained fire, 2 shots, breaching 6+, AP 4 damage 1, or maximal fire, which is breaching 5+ again, but you go back to overload 1.
Yep. And unlike the regular Saturnines, he doesn't blow up when he dies.
Yeah. And you also notice here, this plasma blaster is better strength than the basic plasma gun. Strength 7 on sustained, maximal is strength 8.
Yep. Jack, you were saying something?
It's a question. The traits like the plasma and the power, do we know if those will have additional rules to that?
So that seems to be the way to call out the weapon type. So like Imperial Fists get bonuses to bolt weapons right now in 2.0. That's what that's for, is to say that's what that weapon
It wouldn't be like a question on like whether an assault cannon is a bolt weapon or something like that.
Yeah, it's for references for other rules.
Yeah.
It's it's just kind of different.
Yep.
I'm what you can take from this overall, I think, is that we're seeing similar points costs to what things cost now. At least with the Saturnine stuff. And you're seeing stat increases pretty much across the board on some things, but not on others. Specifically, characters and models that had 2 wounds before or 3 wounds before seem to have more wounds already, if that makes sense.
See,
Yeah, and that
more bowl points now, or what was it that they shown?
Predators.
Predator.
yeah, when we get into dreadnoughts, they got a big buff too for wound wise.
Yes, well, so far.
Yeah. And what's interesting is the unit tax is still there. So the basic Saturnine squad is 200 for 3, but each guy is only 60 points to add on to that.
Yep.
So you've still got that sergeant tax on units as well.
Yep. But you'll notice also on there is nothing about the sergeant having a different character or a different type of character.
Yeah, he doesn't have the character trait.
Nope. So
else that's special.
He has the sergeant trait and heavy, whereas the rest of them just have heavy. So that means that unless when you go to the force organization detachment unlocking thing for building your army, unless you give him that sergeant ability as one of the whatever types, he's not going to be able to participate in a challenge.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
it calls out specifically in the challenge article that sergeants can't do it.
Yep.
So yeah, that's going to be a lot more limited now.
Yep.
And encourage more character like named or big time character type people.
Yep.
Speaking of big time,
yes,
this Saturnine Dreadnought, 340 points out the gate.
So hold on, let's just put this in perspective. So 340 points, that's more than most like tricked out Spartans are right now.
In second edition.
Yeah.
That's I mean, like you can get like tricked out Spartans cheaper than that. Yep. So yeah, that's just to put you in perspective, like how how big a point sink this thing is. I mean, it's like it's like half most of Primark's points totals right now.
Yeah, but it does have a lot of.
Well, I'm not saying
right
it doesn't
now
doesn't bring a lot to the table.
Yeah,
But
He also
it's
doesn't deep strike like we saw on the show. He does have smoke screen, which we don't know what that does. That's a weird trait. Probably something to do with smoke launchers or something.
probably.
it does show that dreads are keeping the Legion Astartes traits, so they're still going to be affected by your Legion Astartes rules for your generic guys. So,
Yeah,
unlike
whatever those end up being.
vehicles, which don't have that, from we saw or from what we're thinking, the dreads are still going to keep that there. So that's a good thing. And the leadership on that dread is ridiculous.
Yes.
Well, all dreads are leadership 12, so it looks like they don't care about leadership checks.
Yep. They're also not all that smart at like pushing buttons.
So you got big, bulky claw hands. I don't think you're going to work the buttons that well on the Leviathan side. But this guy don't got no hands. He's just got big guns.
Yep.
Lieutenant Dan? I'm sorry.
No,
Bulky
don't be sorry.
8.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a chunk.
And explodes on a 4-up.
So was it 644888832?
Yep.
With a 2-up,
Strength
4-up?
and toughness 8 and 8 wounds with a 2-up, 4-up. That's a beast. Yeah,
Yep.
7 wounds.
And I think something important that needs to be noticed on that Leviathan and the Dorito. Weapon skill and ballistic skill 4 universally.
Yep. Even for the big guy.
Big, yeah.
Yep. So looks like days of dreads roaming around and being immune to fighting tactical squads pretty much willy-nilly is likely gone. Which, I kind of like that. I like that dreads are just as good as the regular dude who got shoved inside there.
So the Saturnine comes stock with a disintegrator cannon, a heavy plasma bombard, and 2 photonic incinerators and a thermal diffraction field. We'll get to all those in a second, but you can also swap to get an extra disintegrator cannon, but not an extra plasma bomb. Oh, there it is. Heavy plasma bombard. So yeah, you can take 2 of each weapon on there. And you can also buy the new weapons. They're down in just a second. The inversion beamer and the graviton pulverizer. And the swappable chest weapons are concussive resonators or particle shredders.
Yeah.
So that second set of weapons, it goes in an article about them a bit too.
Yeah, so the disintegrator cannon is the same as the Saturnine Terminator one.
Yep.
Overload 2 with, in this instance, we've got 2 shots.
A range strength of 9.
Yeah. An AP3 in this instance instead of AP2, so at least you'll still get your 2-up save if you shoot yourself in the face with it.
Yep.
The heavy bombard is 5-inch blast, whereas the other one was a 3-inch blast. Most of the other stats are the same. Breaching 6, and if you overload it, you get overload 2 and breaching 5 up.
Yep.
The new weapons are the inversion beamer, which gets stronger the closer you are to it.
Yep.
So if the range is, go ahead.
Should move fast because I still not get wrapping my head around this. FP, that's number of shots.
That's ranged firepower, yeah. Then there's RS for range strength, AP for obviously armor pen, and then D for damage. So for like the
because there's probably going to be stuff that decreases range strength versus post combat strength.
I mean, it's what it is.
In a way, I think because like, don't iron hands decrease the strength of guns that shoot them, but not punches or something?
Yes. So that does kind of make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the graviton pulverizer, which is really sexy.
Yeah. So the inversion beamer, 1 to 15 inches is strength 8, AP2, 3 damage. If you don't move, it gets an extra point of strength, and it's a 5-inch blast. If it's 15 to 30 inches, it loses a point of strength and AP
And damage.
and damage.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, conversion beamers usually have 3 stats. I wonder if they're going to get rid of the 3rd stat on conversion beamers as well.
I don't know. This also is shorter range than most other things. So it's only got
conversion
30.
beamers usually go out to like 6 feet or something.
Yeah. So that's definitely interesting.
The pulverizer, though, 18-inch range, 1 shot, strength 9, AP and damage of 3, heavy D, so it gets an extra damage if you don't move. It's a 3-inch blast, breaching 6 up. It causes pinning, shock pinning, and then pinning of 3. So I'm guessing that's your shock test will take off 3.
That's kind of the way it looks to me.
We don't know what if the dreadnoughts don't count as moving when they shoot for their heavy bonus or what's going on there yet. And then the chest weapons, the concussive resonator is a template weapon, 2-shot template weapon, strength 6, AP 5, overload 1, stun 2.
Yep. So that would probably go against your cool, I think.
That makes sense. And then the photonic incinerator is a single template, range or strength 6, AP 4, panic 2. And so that's probably the
leadership test.
Yep.
Yep.
So each one is going to affect different things depending on what you want. And then the assault trait is going to help in reaction fire and things like that.
Yep. And there again, we see where it's got the traits were assault and sonic and assault and flame. So you could have bonuses like from salamanders against flame for their leadership or their whatever tests, or bonus even for causing shooting damage or whatever. Who knows?
Or
for
Emperor's Children
flame.
getting bonuses to sonic weapons and things like that.
Exactly. So it's definitely kind of an interesting thing. We're seeing more stuff branching out in different ways.
Yep.
So, as I said, very interesting.
And didn't they show the sprues for this too? Or
They did. He's
like 5 sprues or something crazy.
It's something ridiculous.
Yeah, because you've got the multiple different helmet options. You've also got the multiple different chest options. The inversion beamer and the graviton pulverizer aren't in the box. They said they're going to come later as a separate sprue, but you get both the chest weapon options in the box.
A separate sprue.
I know.
Yeah,
I know you're shocked.
It's just like the Leviathan and actually the Contemptors too. And
the Doritos.
GW loves making multiple part boxes, and then later they'll charge more money for throwing the sprue in for fun.
Yep. All I can say is, obviously, we all like dreadnoughts. They're iconic to Heresy. They're cool as hell to look at. They're fun to build. They're fun to paint, and honestly, they're fun to throw on a table. This expansion is in plastic. I'm not 100% sold on the rules, but comparatively, I'm digging this guy, especially with how big and chunky he is and how much he costs. I can't wait to see these guys on the battlefield.
I mean, he's like a Marine Knight. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's exactly the way
it's such a point sink, though. I mean, you got to think about all the other stuff you're going to have to sacrifice in order to take this thing.
Yeah, I never said I would put one on the battlefield. I look forward to seeing the other people.
Sponge at 8 wounds and toughness 8.
Yeah, it is.
Specific legions.
Yes.
And here's an example, Jack, of the traits. So the Saturnine Dreadnought boasts a thermal diffraction field that reduces the strength of all las, plasma, melta, and flame traits. So you're not hunting this guy with las cannons.
I'm going to hunt him the same way I hunt a lot of them, with fists.
Chain axes.
Chain axes.
Chain axes.
It's okay. I'll be there to hold your hand while we play. It's all right. I got you, buddy. Jack will only play with the quick start rules. Everyone else can play with regular rules.
Yeah. Does that lead us into our main topic, Duncan?
Oh, yeah, I guess it kind of does. Hey, Jack, I will indeed. John, you want to keep that screen up?
Yeah, I can run it.
All right, let me close out some windows because I was following along. Unless you want to talk about the Arachne, which we now have the focus miniature-wise on. Because it does give a good showing of size comparing the two.
Yeah, it's the Chungus.
He's a boy.
He's a beast.
Yeah, it's huge.
He
a couple
is.
Marines inside this thing. I like this Pavese is only models, not units with models, but models within 3 inches of this model have a 5-up invul. That's interesting. It's not a bonus to invul, it's just a flat 5-up.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting again.
You're gonna have to be real close to it to get that bonus.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if they're gonna say that you get it from the legs or if you only get it from the hull. I'm hoping only from the hull because that makes more sense.
I hope they at least say something when it comes to it and not just leave it up in the air, which is why we have. And he's saying it from the main gun.
We don't have rules on it yet.
I'm saying legs right now.
I'm saying it's GW. They're going to go by model.
I'm saying it's GW. They're not going to say either.
I don't know. It's going to be an interesting thing one way or another.
Yeah.
One thing I do think is interesting is if you look at the actual the comparison size model on this guy, it actually gives how big the tarantula is compared to regular guys, compared to a Leviathan Dreadnought, compared to this. And the footprint on this thing, unless you're playing on what we as a Heresy community would consider sparse terrain, you're going to have trouble fitting more than one of these into a deployment zone.
Yeah, my army lists aren't going to be able to fit any of them in the deployment zone unless it's the tank lists.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. And it also kind of segues to talking about army lists. So, digging through the bowels of the internet, you will find out there a leak of a lot of the rules. You're not going to find a leak with all the rules or the whole rule book because we don't get that yet. But you are going to find that has kind of been sort of confirmed by GW using how to build a new army. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Once I figure out how to do that, because technology is hard. There we go.
Yeah.
So hopefully,
slowly pulling up slowly. There we go. We have it.
No problem. So what you see here is the Heresy Crusade Force Organization chart. We've talked about it before, and GW's talked about it on their website. On the GW website, it has mentioned here that this detachment is a Crusade primary detachment. It starts off with your high command, as shown by the Praetor with the Mohawk crest. And then you have the 3 command goons beneath him, who have 1 with the prime advantage and then 2 regular. Then you have 1 troop with the prime advantage and 3 regular troops. And then you have your 4 transports that you purchase below. So that's kind of how that works to build your primary detachment. Then we have other types of detachments with your armored fist, your tactical support, which specifies here tactical support, heavy support squads, apothecary, and other units. So that's where your apothecaries are coming in and your heavy support squads are coming in. Your armored support or your armored fist will be like heavy, like land raiders and other small transports and all that. And heavy support being a single dreadnought slot. So going off of how they have said this works, you get your primary detachment when you take your warlord, and he will unlock 1 based on this Crusade Force organization chart that is actually expanded from the leak. You'll have your warlord, or your what used to be called warlord, but now it's called your high commander. He will unlock an auxiliary detachment or 2 auxiliary detachments, and then you can use your second little dude, which is your command slot with the prime, which a lot of people are taking as, or will be likely taking as, a generic Centurion, since that will allow you to use that bonus and therefore unlock 2. So what I've done is I've gone through a new recruit, which, hey, plug, we all love new recruit and think it's a great thing, and not judging any points values, not judging any additions or rules or anything else. I've built up what I consider to be a not absolute garbage 3K world leaders list that I would consider would fit into everything. So going with just at first the Crusade detachment, I got a high command. The old term would be warlord for the Praetor, and I give him the generic gear of a power fist, a thunder hammer and a paragon blade. I didn't buy a right for this army, so nothing unlocks there. Nothing is released as a special type of switches from this to that or anything like that. I got a regular Centurion with a power axe for a logistical benefit so that I could have other stuff unlocked. Then I got a champion with paragon blade and a thunder hammer, a herald with a power axe and a jump pack. Points all laid out still, like I said, just as the same as current. Then I did a block of 20 assault marines with 4 power axes and a sergeant with a fist. And I'm not putting artificer on any of the sergeants in this list because it looks like those may be gone. Then 10 despoilers with chain axes, sergeants and fist, another block of the despoilers, and another block of despoilers, and then 3 rhinos and dozers. So that fills up the entire command Crusade primary detachment. So everything here, you don't have to fill these slots. And I did not fill one of the transport slots. So I showed that you do not have to fill all of them. You can choose which ones you fill. But from there, I went and I used the high command to unlock a Vanguard detachment, which is down at the bottom part of the Apex detachments. I only used one of the Army Vanguard because I didn't want to unlock more. But since that looks like elites and seems to function as elites, I went ahead and grabbed a pack of 15 Rampagers with jump packs and phalanx blades, and the Sergeant also having phalanx blade, jump pack, and again, no artificer. Still going with the same points cost, so I stuck them with the Herald so that if the Herald does grant line, assuming the Herald has that ability with his banner, now they have line as the Despoilers and Assault Marines having line. Then the High Command, using a regular unlock, I unlocked the, what was the next one? The Armored Support Detachment. And I did that specifically, flipped to the wrong one, so that I could have a Predator. Because I thought, hey, I'll throw a Predator in here. It'll be interesting and show something that before would have come from from heavy slot, and now is not. And so that just unlocks that there. Beyond that, I said, okay, now the Centurion's 2 unlocks. I'm going to unlock a pair of Contemptors, because each one of them has to be purchased separately because you only get one choice there. And we know that squadrons and things like that are no longer an option. So I grabbed 2 regular Contemptors, both with fists, one with an inbuilt bolter in the fist, one with a melta gun in the fist, and a pair of Gravis meltas, one on each of them. Then using the Herald, I used and unlock one of the first strike detachments, which you get 2 options in. And I said, well, that looks to me right here, which is where we have the complete explanation. Looks like that's going to be land speeders. So since they're not available in squadrons anymore, I took 2 individual speeders, javelins with Melta and Last Cannon. And then for the Champions unlock, I went ahead and grabbed a Tactical Support Detachment, which again we see and was referenced before in the actual rules as heavy support squads. And I went ahead and threw in a pair of heavy support squads with last cannons and chain axes. Now, again, this is only using the current points costs that we have right now. But throwing all this in here, unlocking the way this seems to function based on the leaks and based on stuff that has been confirmed from GW, looks like you can use this to still build the same style of lists that people would have done so in the past. Just things are unlocked in different areas. It definitely looks like you're going to need more characters. And you're going to need them of multiple different types.
Good.
The ability that we get for the prime slot for the Centurion, allowing him to unlock an additional slot that you can then choose, that really helps. Especially since your high command only gets to unlock one Apex detachment, and if you're going to be unlocking additional officer companies, they can't unlock combat retinues or army vanguard. So that's something that's definitely going to be an interesting, what do you pick and where do you pick it from?
I like that a lot. What's interesting is having to plan out the Apex attachment if you want a retinue or things like that.
Yep. Now, one thing I do like about this is that combat retinue, you can get 3 retinues.
Yep.
And the prime slots, I'm just going to read this. The force organization slots marked in this fashion are prime slots. Prime slots retain the battlefield role indicated, blah, 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 blah. For each prime slot filled in a detachment, you may select one prime advantage from the options below, future publication, blah, blah, blah. But the core prime traits are here. A master sergeant. One model in the unit selected to fill the prime slot has the sergeant subtype, gains +1 to attacks, weapon skill, and leadership characteristics, and the champion subtype, which would likely be what we have to have a challenge. If it already has the champion subtype, it instead increases its leadership by an additional 1. This can only be selected once per detachment. And again, as we see, each of these are their own detachment. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting. Then we have the combat veterans, where everyone gets +1 to leadership, cool, intelligence, willpower to a maximum of 10. Paragon of Battle, one model in the unit selected to fill the prime slot that has the command subtype gains +1 attacks, weapon skill, and ballistic skill, which if you're not interested in unlocking extra stuff with one character, could be something really neat to throw on like a champion to give him a weapon skill bump. Could be really into an attack bump, could be really helpful there. Or to like an armistice to get more shooting out of them. Then there's a special assignment, which is, and this is how I believe what we used to select the Delegatus for. This prime advantage may only be selected for a command slot. A command slot for which this prime advantage is selected may be filled by a high command unit, but remains a command slot. Moreover, no additional detachments of any time may be selected due to this slot, regardless of their battlefield role or any special units rules that the unit selected to fill the force slot may have. And then there's the logistical benefit, which is the one that when you throw it in there with a regular champion or a regular Centurion, add 1 additional force organization slot to the detachment and then include the prime slot. This slot may be of any battle high command, warlord, or lord of war. This can only be selected once per detachment.
Well, I could see people going through. So one of the things I was worried about earlier, which is how do you show this? Because you've got, let's say Army Vanguard as an example of an Apex attachment. One of those units is a prime unit, the other 2 aren't. And so
Correct.
on the battlefield, how are you showing this? I could see people doing tokens. I could see people taking the time to convert up a cooler veteran squad and to show the difference and show the differences between those. What I'm worried about is the people that are just going to say, oh, this is the unit that has it, and then you kill that unit, and it turns out it was the other unit that had it.
Well, that's the thing.
Of the bonus. These aren't huge bonuses either way, though.
No, and these bonuses don't really. I mean, you're going to obviously. I'm going to present you with my list when I come to the table, and my list is going to have everything laid out, saying this is my high command, this is my command detachment, this is my primary, this is my apex, This is my heavy support or heavy whatever. This is my auxiliary. What the fuck? And you're going to be able to see it all laid out. And each one of those things where I select a primary or a prime bonus or whatever the hell it's called, I'm going to have to lay it out there and tell you and show you. And if I don't choose that, well, kind of tells you a lot about how I am as a person. So I think that the fact that some of these really only have an effect on how you build the list as opposed to play on the table, makes me really kind of glad that you don't get to then eliminate this guy on my command to then eliminate the squad that was bought in that way. So you can't just kill things on my list to then delete other things on my list by making them no longer viable. So there's no way to metagame like that. That I really like. When I first started reading through this, I thought it might be that way, but it doesn't appear to be. But it's definitely going to be different, and we got to see where specific things, using again World Eaters as an example, where the Rampagers would fall in an actual force organization slot, if they themselves are a vanguard, or if they are possible as a retinue, based on a rite of war or what have you. So it's going to be different. If I'm reading that wrong, people out there who have got access to this stuff and are reading it, let us know. But to me, it does not seem like a negative way to build a list. It just seems like a way to add more versatility while also limiting you to having everything tied to a specific battlefield role, if that makes sense. One thing I do honestly really like about this overall is that the way it's laid out and the way it's looking, we're also seeing, like with the shock assault and the combat pioneer and the other things, you're getting stuff that's going to be expanded with other things in the roles, but you're going to be limited purely by what HQs you take and what commands you take to what you can bring. So you're not going to have the ability to throw every single thing you might want in there if you don't have enough points or enough characters. So I really like that. Gone will be the days of you have a Delegatus and 3,000 point army list of nothing but whatever. You're going to have commanders. You're going to have characters that are leading units. You're going to have characters there supporting other things, especially as your points value grow and you expand further and further. You're not just going to be stuck with only 6 troops and 4 elites and 3 fast and 3 heavy. You're going to see more things coming and being added to the table, but they're going to carry on that character tax.
Yeah, and there were more than enough times where I would fill out a force org slot and been like, man, I want to take more of this, but I just can't.
Yeah.
You could build a list in a way that you've got more heavy choices, old heavy support choices in this way, or even more troops. Like before the militia and things like that, I was filling up troops left and right.
That's a big thing that you do notice is if you use those guys to unlock more troops, there is a selection on there to where you can just get more dudes. And that's definitely interesting.
Just take the logistical benefit over and over and over.
Yep. I'm really liking it. I like the idea of unlocking more. I like the idea of everything being tied up to where as your army expands, it has to have other characters leading that army and expanding who's in command and who's not in command. I'm a pretty big fan of that, honestly. And it looks like we've been joined by one of our patrons who's here listening to us and has his video on.
Yep.
While we're recording in the wrong channel. Oops, our bad. I'm not going to move his channels because that might mess us up in the recording.
We do planning.
Yeah, we're planning really well.
He's muted.
But, oh, that's good. Anyway, yeah, I'm a big fan of how this seems to branch everything out. I like it. I think it's going to be a lot more flavorful armies being built going forward than just the regular FOC that we used to have. I dig this. I approve of this in many ways. Now, Jack and I have had a number of conversations about how he thinks it's confusing and how it's not going to work quite as well for him and how he needs me to show him how it works. This is not how it's going to work entirely because everything's going to be adjusted by the army you're playing.
Or if there's other detachments that are specific to legions or specific detachments that are specific to legiones, there's a bunch of things we don't know. Like we just know these basic detachments right now. And even this may not be all of them anyway. Like there could just be much more in the base rule. So yeah, there's a bunch of questions.
Could be a lot. We don't know. Your rights of war could unlock stuff. Your various commanders could unlock stuff. Yeah. We just don't know. What this kind of feels like is taking some of the positive aspects from other games that have been out there for a while and using those to unlock things and incorporate their rules into Heresy.
Yeah, this and is honestly, much along the lines of how Limp does their army building.
Yep. I'm a fan of this. After I've had a chance to sit down and go through this repeatedly to hammer it into my head, I'm a fan.
There's definitely a learning curve on it.
I think the easiest way to sum all this up, this is going to be a net positive to effectively build lists that are thematic, that function the way the person who's creating the list expects them to function, and does not really impede on list design at all, and in fact actually enhances it to be more fun. Because as we all know, part of the game is theory crafting lists, and this is definitely going to be an interesting way to theory craft more lists.
I don't think it's going to be as easy to do in some of the pre-existing army builder softwares though, because of the way it does it. I agree. Wish that GW would make an interactive army building tool to go along with this release.
They may. We don't know.
Someone might come along and do it, but they'll probably come down with them like a ton of bricks. I could see this working really well in a drag and drop interface.
One thing we do know for sure is that the way this is changing everything, army fluctuation, force organization wise, this is pretty much going to be a nail in pretty much a final nail in the coffin, or one of the final nails in the coffin for Battlescribe, because there's no way you can sit there and adjust everything with that.
Yep.
But New Recruit, the guys who are doing that, which again I know most of them use, and I know is pretty big out there in the actual community. New Recruit's probably already working on stuff based on this. They're on top of it. So I really think that New Recruit will be able to do the whole drag and drop unlock thing rather swiftly. So while yes, there's going to be a bit of a time when we have to go without having anything available, I don't really see that the no list building applications being true for much longer than maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 on the outside.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about this from my tech background and software development background. Like I could see where this would work really well in something like that. So
no, I agree. And
a moneymaker for them if they just charge a little bit for it, or even a monthly fee for it.
Yeah, if GW does that, they'll definitely pick up.
Don't they already have one for 40K that's part of Warhammer Plus?
Yeah, but you got to buy other stuff.
Heresy. They've never done it for Heresy.
Well, I know, but like they would have it part of Warhammer Plus, and then like you have to buy the other books to get the code to unlock all that stuff in the app, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, but since you're not really having to buy extra books beyond the Legios, Yeah, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. And
It will also kind of prove that they think that Heresy is a mainline game if they get digital support.
yep. And one thing else that doesn't have anything whatsoever to do with army building, which has been where I've been kind of focused on a lot of stuff for this week. In the leak, it shows table layouts. There's only 3.
Yeah, we played those missions this week.
Yep. But one thing I'm really kind of glad that I can focus on and look at is that in each of those tables, they're 4x6. They're not that cracked out, whatever, 40K size tables.
Did you also notice that it's a D6 chart for the table layouts, but it's not an equal split D6 chart?
Nope. I did notice that.
So in a 1, you get the oddball deploy. The other ones,
yep, you get the more traditional, easier ones. And I think
kind of like.
While I liked having all the other ones, like the Japanese flag and the pizza slices and everything, those appear to mostly be gone. Which means that, hey, event organizers, if you're listening, I know some of you are, keep a copy of your old table deployments around so you can sit there and pull those out and start showing them to people. Because with new people coming into third, they're not going to know our old deployments. They're going to be brand new to them, and they will think you are an absolute genius for coming up with new table deployments beyond what the rules say.
Yeah, there was a company
use that to your advantage
at Warzone Houston that had a deployment map die, and I picked up a few of those for my armies.
Ooh, good choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my my dig through the bowels of internet hell to go through those leaks and look at that. So, Jack, I know you and I have discussed force organization and army building. I know you had said break it down for you in ways that have I done so?
I'm not going to lie to you.
Okay. Okay.
I think it'll be easier to show off if you have make them in cards and kind of show if you take this, then you get access to this card and things like that. I think this is more of an interactive tool than an explaining tool.
Well, I think so. I think you're right there. But did what I said in the way I laid it out, did that make sense to anyone other than Jack who's still confused? Jamie, did it make sense to you?
No, it does. My question is that I have, because I haven't gone through all the leaks yet, is that you have to fill out those first.
So it does not appear that there's nothing is compulsory. You don't have to fill those out.
Well, I'm not saying that it's compulsory. I'm saying if you fill out the first thing, do you get bonuses?
Maybe. We don't know yet.
We don't know yet. Okay.
Well, the only thing we know is that you've obviously got to start with the primary.
The primary.
And then from there, you can sacrifice things to get more detachments other places.
But that's what I'm saying. With the primary, say, wasn't there 4 rhinos or something like that on it?
Yeah,
or
you don't have to take any transports at all.
Okay. That was my question is are you forced to take those 4 mandatory ones on that primary to unlock?
So that's the thing of the mandatory. You are not forced to take mandatory anything.
Okay.
Except a high commander.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're not forced, I was wondering because, with some of the divergent army styles, that used to be unlocked, but with Rights of War, if you're kind of shoved in that direction by having to take that stuff in the core command, whatever.
Let me read this because it's actually addressed in the actual leak. And it says, designer's note. More veteran readers may note that prime slots are similar in appearance to what was once called compulsory choices. Right. Despite that similarity, the two have little in common. This edition of the Horus Heresy game does not feature any form of compulsory choices that force players to take certain units. Instead, prime slots, which are the ones with the spike around it, offer bonuses to those players that choose to fill them and select more quote-unquote standard forces. So
we don't know necessarily that the high command is a praetor. It could just be a captain, or it could be a decurion, which goes in a tank.
Yep,
We don't know what is in that slot.
Yeah, we don't know what's available for your high command. And again, it could very well be that you take that Delegatus in that other slot, and now he fills your high command.
I mean, I get it. Once you unlock that first thing, it feeds into the other two.
Yeah.
And I totally understand that. And I mean, I have no problem with that. I just have questions about that first unlock process is what I'm getting at, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
I think some of that stuff, especially with Jack's more questions, I think it'll be a little easier to understand once we get the Legion book, and then we know where some of this stuff goes, because then it'll start clicking a little better.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like, because the oddball stuff the armies that I build, they're all usually kind of divergent type lists. So that's where I'm kind of going. I was just wondering how that's all going to work. So
yeah, it's definitely going to work differently than we're used to, obviously, because it's an entirely different layout and format. But I think, as I said, I think this layout change is going to be for the better. That's my honest read.
Well, I was also a little worried. I mean, it looks like some of the abusive lists that we've had maybe kind of tampered down a bit, because I don't know if you'd be able to take, like, Fury of the Ancients, like, in the current form that it actually is.
So
you can take so let's start with let's use Fury as Ancients as an example. So we could start with the Crusade Primary Detachment. You take a high command.
Right.
And let's use existing 2.0 as the base example. We don't know if there's an HQ Dreadnought or whatever.
Right.
So you got your Praetor there. Then that gives you access to the Crusade Primary Detachment. You can swap your prime unit command for a Dreadnought of some kind, either way, heavy support or whatever.
Right.
And then after that, you could add extra auxiliary detachments for every command slot. So you could just, take a Primus Medicae, which gives you access to a heavy support auxiliary detachment, which is one dread. Yeah, you're limited a lot more in the number of dreadnoughts you can take in general without being able to take other stuff as supports, because they've made that it's almost its own detachment.
God, yeah, okay.
Now, assuming Pride of the Ancient, or not Pride of the Ancients, but Fury of the Ancients is a generic right that people can take, it may be able to sub or certain other things into those command slots. We don't know. That's the thing. We don't know how rights of war exist, if they exist, how they're going to function if they do exist.
Yeah, maybe catch the Pharaoh dreadnoughts because they're weaker, or shock assault, as well as the other dreadnoughts being heavy support. Or maybe there's an HQ dreadnought that fills the high command slot that you can only take one of. So there's a bunch of
the elite one would be like the big boy, whatever. I totally understand. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks to me like if you are wanting to build that style of list, you still can. You're just going to have a lot of dudes running around in power armor to unlock every single dread that you throw on there.
Right. Yeah.
And because they're one per slot now, you're limited a little more too.
You're limited on but that's what I'm saying. You can still, in theory, because we don't know everything. In theory, the way it looks like, you could still do it, but it's not going to be as as I said, it was a little bit it's tampered down. It's not as all dreadnought smash face type army build. You have to take other stuff to get to that point.
Yep. It definitely
you have to take crunchy filling to go with smooth filling to go with the crunch on the outside.
Yep.
Yeah, we saw some of that limitations in the other rights of war, right? Like Armored Breakthrough, the Predators didn't get lines, so you were taking more tactical squads and rhinos. And the same thing is in here with the Armored Fist brigades, or Armored Fist detachments. Like you're looking at the multiple rhinos, being able to take those with the tactical squads that you're pulling from the original Crusade detachment, which allows you to unlock the armored support detachments, which have multiple predators in it. So,
I really do like this. I like damn near everything about this and the way it presents itself.
Yep.
So, Jack, when we get the box and we get the rules, I will very happily sit down over at your place and the two of us go over making lists and throwing stuff on the table so we can sit there and try to explain and try to have both of us fully understand.
Well,
I
no,
would
thank you,
like
sir.
if GW makes cards like they did for Limp to make the
That would be
detachment
neat.
cards. They did that for Legions Imperialis, and I think that'd be a good teaching.
And they do
tool
that for
at the
like
very least.
I know this is kind of out in left field, but then they did that with like a POC 2.0 too. They had like
Mhm.
if you got the super edition of it, they had the box that had all the different formations or whatever on cards or whatever that so you could build it out a lot easier. But
Yep.
Yeah, and they did that for the basic Legions Imperialis. They had the detachment cards, and then they had one for each army as well. So therefore, you had the army building, and you would line the cards up under that you were taking per detachment.
Yep.
Kind of like you did for old Epic. Like there was the I remember the Tyranid one was like you had to build hexagons, and before you could move on to another hexagon layer, you had to fill in the previous hexagon layers and things like that.
okay. Yeah.
Well, that pretty much sums up what we know of army building from leaks and from GW. So, voila. There we go, folks.
We go into our next topic.
Sure. What's our next topic, John?
Our next topic is the return of a fan favorite. The Accountability Buddies 2-week hobby challenge.
Yes. Yes, we are glad to bring this back.
Yep. So starting on the 29th of June will be the submission date. Obviously, you have a week to get submissions in, then you have 2 weeks to paint everything so that it's finished by the 13th. And then a week after that, the 20th of July, the start date. 2 weeks after that will be the end. And then culminating in a draw on the 13th of August. And then that's midweek, by the way. August 17th is going to be when we start the next session, and then that's going to end on the 7th, and then the starting on the September the 21st, ending in October the 12th, and then drawing on October the 15th. And I'll get this printed up and sit on the way like we did with the last one. So a little shorter times between drawings this time, so there's not as many entries as before, but I kind of wanted to get something out there before 3.0 dropped, so that way people kind of knew what was going on before and after, so we could build up momentum to it.
Cool. I know that there's people out there who are chomping at the bit to do this, and we've been asked repeatedly, so I'm glad to see this return.
Yep. I'm happy to send things on and to help people get little tools to help them out in their hobby, to keep them interested and accountable.
Yep. Definitely digging it. Shall we do some event shout outs then?
So speaking of that, I have mentioned that every month I'm running an event, Dallas Games Marathon, and it looks like the Texas Open that moved to January is probably not going to have room for Heresy. And so Furix has kind of taken a back step on that, and they're running their event in August of this year on the 24th. And so I'll be going to that. But that means their event's kind of used up. And so there is a space there to run a Heresy event in January alongside Texas Open. And kind of talking to some guys, it kind of doesn't sound like Texas Open is going to have space for Heresy. So I've been talking with Dallas Games Marathon, and it looks like I'm going to be putting together an event for late January. I'm still working on prices and sizes and everything, but looks like we can fit at least 40 people in the main room at Dallas Games Marathon, and then we can expand from there if we need it. So
Nice.
kind of pencil that in on your calendars right now as it comes out. The way I'm planning it would be that I would go ahead and cater lunch on both days.
Kind of you.
So I don't know what that's going to, how ticket prices are going to look and things like that. I've still got to get information from the event to see what that's going to look like. And then obviously you'll be playing on my tables as well as some of the other tables in the area. We've got plans to make sure that we've got more than enough terrain for everybody that's coming in. So
Rock out.
That-
Rock out.
That's what's happening right now. They're also reaching out to me to see if I kind of want to run painting classes and some of that stuff. So if you're local to the DFW area or want to come in for a 1-day kind of 4-hour-ish painting class, terrain building, things like that, we're kind of getting all the stuff together right now. He's got TVs set up that can stream from my camera, the 4K camera that I use every Wednesday night. So there'll be more information coming about that soon. So it looks like that'll be some of the days. So it'll be painting and then terrain building and then sculpt and some other stuff going on. So I'll be doing those classes there as well. So I'll keep everyone updated on those. And then next month, obviously into July, will be the 19th is my next event at Dallas Games Marathon. Will be another, at this point, we're still thinking 2.0, but maybe we'll have 3 by then. Who knows?
Okay.
What other events do you have to shout out, Mr. Duncan?
Well, first off, I know that Blake and Mace are running a Heresy event at the Warhammer ATC down at the Chattanooga Convention Center. That will be Saturday and Sunday, July the 12th and 13th, 2025. And our friends down in Music City Heresy are absolutely back. As of right now, planning on, I believe, running, depending on when the actual 3rd edition drops. Right now, I believe they're still planning on it being 2nd edition, depending on time frame for release. But August 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th, they are, on the Friday at noon of August 14th through 17th and all day Saturday, they are running at the NashCon Wargaming Convention. That will be at the Sheraton Music City in Nashville. So if you're in that area, we absolutely support them. They're really cool dudes. All of us except Jamie, I think, have attended an event there once, twice, or thrice, or fourth. Down with them. They're cool dudes. It's another cool event. Pop in, say hi. They're really cool dudes. You can find them on Facebook at Music City Heresy. And that's all I know at this time.
Did I see that the Swedes announced something for October?
LinCon, I believe. Or Scandus or LinCon, one of the two.
Yeah.
Scandus. That's cool.
Yep.
And
to see them
there's the Dallas Taking of Fearix, the Pillars of Dolos Prime is August 16th through the 17th in Richardson, Texas. Tickets right now are on sale until until July 1st. It's $75 for 2 days.
Dig this.
And then after the July 1st, they're going to go up to $85 a ticket. There's a hotel block, and it's held inside of a indoor soccer stadium. So there's going to be booze. There's going to be food on site.
Digging it. Don't think we have anything else really to go over tonight, do we, gentlemen?
Like, share, and subscribe.
Sure. Like, share, and subscribe. Shout out to our patrons, including the ones who have popped from where we normally record. Ben, sorry you couldn't hang out for the entire thing. Brian, Mike, thank you for coming in and listening for a while. Thank you to all our patrons. Thank you to all our sponsors. We really appreciate everything you all do for us and to us. And at this point, John, you want to go ahead and take us out of here?
Yes. Thank you for joining us on the 131st episode of the Heresy Accountabilibuddies Podcast. I'm John, and tonight I've been joined by
Duncan.
And Jamie.
And we appreciate you joining us tonight. Always remember to stay accountable to yourselves, to your buddies, and your hobby. And we'll talk to you next time.
There you go.
Like and subscribe, and see ya.